Welcome in to the first edition of the Cup Race Recap. We are here recording March 7th, the Monday after Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the Pennzoil 400, and Alex Bowman stealing one in Las Vegas. What do you think of that?
You know, Bowman had it really close this race. I do believe that Kyle Larson did. Don't quote me on this, but I believe that he let Bowman into guarantee a spot in the playoffs because he caught because I caught the last corner of the race, corner 4, that I noticed in one of the recaps and on the race that Larson for some reason went up very deep on the outside of the track, and Bowman was very tight into the corner, causing him to take the checker. But him and Larson were neck and neck on probably the last 3 laps. I'd say they're kind of neck and neck. But for some random reason, that Larson drove up into the outside at a very, very fast pace, causing Bowman to take the lead and the checker, which gave Larson second place and Ross Chastain in third.
Yeah, it was just a straight out drag race at the end of the thing, and the green-white checker, I guess it's not called a green-white checker anymore. It's called NASCAR overtime. But it came out, Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. were duking it out for the lead, and they battled for probably 15, 20 laps there at the end of the race. And Kyle Busch was holding off, and he was starting to actually pull away from Truex. So the race belonged to him until that caution flag waved. And we'll get more into that as we progress into the show. But Kyle Busch ran a pretty good race for being in a backup car. They put it together the day before. I know Kyle Busch was unhappy that he didn't win, and we'll get more into that a little later too when I give out some awards. But yeah, they interviewed him, and they asked him what he thought of the backup car, and he said, "Well, they're all the same. You get them all from Walmart." It's like, what was he trying to say? Like, I don't understand what his problem is. He ran 4th. He started 37th in a car they built the day before. That's a pretty impressive run at the hometown track for him. He's won there once, but a top 5 finish there for Kyle Busch seemed like a pretty big deal coming from the way back in a backup car.
Yeah, sometimes you can get cars, you got your main car and then you got backup cars. Sometimes you never know. The backup car could be a lemon. You never know. But it seemed like that car held up pretty well until he got into his feud and kind of causing them to where he should have been more focused on, the race, like, hey, this is my hometown track. I'm going to do my very best. But he kind of let his personal feelings get in the way, trying to take on Truex there. But, finishing 13th in a backup car, I mean, I may have kind of not high standards if I was racing in NASCAR, but 13th in a backup car built the day before.
He finished 4th. He finished 4th.
Oh, yeah, my bad. I was looking.
That's the point standings. Oh, Kurt Busch.
Yeah. Kurt Busch, sorry. Kurt Busch.
Yeah, because they both say K Busch.
Busch.
Oh, yeah. Man. Anyway, that's something. He ran a really good race in the backup.
Yeah, no kidding. I missed the race because I had to work a late shift, so I'm kind of this is kind of last moment for me. So but the standings, has K Busch and K Busch. I should have. Yeah, so Kurt in 4th place. So yeah, and Truex in 8th. Okay, yeah.
And it was crazy because Kyle would have won the race had Eric Jones not spun out and collected Bubba Wallace there late in the race, causing that caution. So
Bubba's done pretty good this year. He got second place in the Daytona race this year, but just less than a hood length, behind Cindric, and he was actually pretty upset about that. But me personally, if I came in second at the Daytona 500, I think did he come in second place last year? And he was actually there for a couple years ago, and he was like really happy he got second at the Daytona. But this Daytona, he was not happy one bit that he came in second place. But.
Yeah, he's been working his ass off this year. At Fontana, he had, I don't know if he dumped Keselowski, but he got into Keselowski off of turn 2 at Fontana, and they both wrecked. Obviously not the the second race that Bubba wanted. And then yesterday, just wrong place, wrong time as Jones slid back up onto the track. Bubba was doing everything he could to avoid the thing, and he had to swerve hard to the left so he didn't T-bone Eric Jones at the start finish line. But he was running, I think, the 12th or 13th at that point. So he's had a pretty solid start to the season if he just cleans it up a little bit. And I think Bubba could make a little bit of noise. I wouldn't be surprised to see him run again at Talladega, because restrictor plate races, anybody can win.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm very impressed with Ross Chastain. Trackhouse Racing has had a pair of really solid performances in a row. Daniel Suarez last weekend at Fontana, and then Chastain's was even more remarkable because he led, I think it was 83 laps yesterday, and he looked like he was going to win. He looked like he had the best car until the sun went down, and then Kyle Busch came out of nowhere past him. So I think Trackhouse Racing, I think both of those guys may pick up wins this year. Both of them have proven that they can run up front. Daniel Suarez, if he stays up top last week, he probably wins instead of going down to block Larson. He was blocking like he was at Daytona. I mean, he didn't need to throw blocks like that. If he would have just stayed up top and with the push, I think he could have won at Fontana. And then yesterday, Ross, I mean, he looked like he had the best car all day. I was impressed.
Yeah, that's the Chevys have been pretty good this year. I know that during the Daytona and in the practice rounds, the Fords were looking like really scary good. And, you got Joey Logano and Austin Cindric, who won the Daytona this year. After, I personally believe that Keselowski kind of started that first wreck after kind of bumping in the rear. I did see it, but
100% Keselowski
yeah,
was pushing out of turn 2. He was pushing Harrison Burton, and then Burton ended up flipped over.
Yeah, because he kept kind of just bumping his bumper, then he lost control and they took out, Keselowski didn't wreck, but 17 confirmed wrecks at Daytona, and Austin Cindric just took it in the Ford. Fords were scary fast that day, but kind of the last couple of races, notice the Fords haven't been performing too well. Last week's where, but oh, hang on.
we lost the camera.
Yeah,
there it is.
There we go. Anyway, and yeah, and what was it?
The Fords.
The Fords, yeah, the Fords have been, but I think last week's race, Joey Logano and Larson were kind of battling out there in the last stage for a little bit. He was, he wasn't running his Pennzoil car. He was I forget what the
AAA.
Yeah, the AAA car. He runs the AAA car because I think he wrecked his Pennzoil car in
practice.
I'm a little,
yeah, he did. He spun in either qualifying or practice last week. They had so many guys spinning.
Yeah, so he really, I saw the clip of it, but yeah, he wrecked his Pennzoil car. All the races I've been watching him, he's always had his Pennzoil car. Last gen too, he ran the yellow Pennzoil car. But yeah, the next gen cars, has the Pennzoil, and then the AAA. Running the AAA, I thought that car, was doing really splendid there. Him and Larson were kind of battling out, and he just kind of started falling back in the pack. And Larson staying up there with Suarez and everybody. They're kind of battling it out.
Yeah, the Chevys.
The Chevys this year,
specifically the Hendrick Motorsports.
Very well, I think.
Chevys, the guys who are running for Rick Hendrick, Kyle Larson. You see on Will's hat there, he's a big Kyle Larson fan. A win last week at Fontana, and then yesterday Alex Bowman taking the race at Vegas. So Hendrick Motorsports, I think, is the team to beat again this year. I know Chase Elliott's going to pick up a win here sometime this year, and I wouldn't be surprised to see William Byron get one too. So I think we could see all 4 of the Hendrick boys running for the championship this year. But yeah, I mean, the Toyotas have been competitive. Like I mentioned yesterday, Kyle Busch and Martin Truex were running first and second, and one of them would have won the race had the caution not come out. So the Toyotas are competitive. Bubba, obviously second at Daytona for 2311. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with the Fords. They're not, I mean, yeah, Cindric won the Daytona 500, but other than that, they haven't really made a lot of noise.
No, And then same thing with the Toyotas and Truex. He won the first two poles in the Daytona race. They were close. They're very close, but there's been a few Toyotas up in the pack. Like Bubba almost winning the Daytona behind Cendric. That's kind of like the Fords were looking very, very good before the Daytona qualifying in Daytona. Like the Fords were like scary good, but
and I got a feeling that's going to stay the same throughout all the plate races. I think the Fords are just going to be the cars to beat at the restrictor plate races, Dega and the July Daytona race. I think this may be a little crazy to predict this early on in the season, but I think Harrison Burton driving for the Wood brothers, he flipped over at Daytona a couple weeks ago, and I think he's going to win either the summer Daytona race or one of the two Talladega races, because he looked good in Daytona. Burton
yes, he did
until he flipped. I mean, it's hard to look good when you're 180 degrees upside down, don't know where you're at. But yeah, I think that Burton could definitely pull off a win, maybe steal one the same way Bowman did.
Yeah, I don't know if it's for the Rex in the Daytona this year, but Cendric won the Daytona, but I haven't really seen much of like this Sunday's race. He placed 19th, where Logano, like I believe for Fords and the restrictor plate races, I have a feeling Logano's got to have something, maybe top 10. If the Fords are performing very well, or if it all depends on Rex. The new issues with the new tires. You never know. Anything could go wrong. Same thing. Hendrick, anybody in NASCAR with these new tires, and with I don't know, lugs are not a problem, but with some loose lugs and everything like that, or you never know, they could have a
mistakes on pit road.
Mistakes on pit road. There's a whole lot that can go wrong, but if we have a clean, non-penalized race, I believe some of the Fords, something about Joey Logano, the way last Sunday's race, he was kind of giving Larson a run for his money there, but until he just kind of got back in the pack. But if we're gonna go with Fords, I'm gonna go with Logano, but there's no guarantees with that. But
all right, I think Logano's a pretty strong pick. Logano and Blaney, both of those Penske guys. And there's one other Ford that I would like to talk a little bit about. It's Eric Almirola in his final season, the 10 car. Eric, 3 straight top 10s this year. No other driver in NASCAR has 3 top 10s this year in the first 3 races. The Eric Almirola retirement tour is going strong. I'm on board. I would like to see Eric Almirola compete for a championship this year.
Yeah, that's maybe announcing retirement. Maybe some guys in retirement, they're just gonna wing their year, kind of collect their final paychecks. But just the way he's been racing, he's like, kind of fighting for his last year, maybe try and make an impact on his last year, kind of like, in NFL, like how, Brady should retire after he, won the Super Bowl last year, kind of retiring after that. So maybe he's going to make this his best year he possibly can.
Yeah, and that's another thing that makes it pretty impressive is that Stewart-Haas has basically been underperforming as a whole. Kevin Harvick hasn't won a race in over a year. Cole Custer hasn't won a race in over a year. Chase Briscoe, young, he's never won, but I think he's one of them that picks up his first win sometime this year. Their last win was at Loudon, New Hampshire last year, and that was Eric Almirola, and he was dominant in that race. So I think Stewart-Haas is going to start finding their rhythm here. They probably got some kinks to work out. Harvick's an old guy. He's probably got he's been around for a long time. He replaced Dale Earnhardt after the wreck at Daytona, and he's been around forever. He's probably getting used to the next gen car, but he's run some pretty good races too. It's just a matter of time before Stewart-Haas starts clicking and collecting wins the way that they used to when Harvick won his championship in 2014. He's been a consistent driver ever since he's joined the Cup. So I'm excited to see where Stewart-Haas goes this year. They've got a few kinks to work out, but I heard you mention something about the tires, the tire troubles we've been having this year. Will, tell me what you think.
before Daytona this year, I don't remember if it was just a couple months before they announced that the next gen cars are going to be running on one lug nut tires, and I just thought, what? Because the truck series, right? They got just the one lugs. I don't watch the truck series. I just watch the cup races, and they're changing up the tires a little bit, lower profile, a little, a lot more rim, a lot less rubber.
Right.
And I know at the Daytona we had a lot of tire problems.
Yeah, Daytona and Fontana and yesterday.
Yeah, it's crazy. And we also had a bouncing tire in the Daytona. Just the tire just going off. It's a loose, and I forget who that was, but their team actually got penalized for that loose lug.
Yep, that was Todd Gilliland. Todd Gilliland, his crew chief, I think, got suspended for 5 or 6 weeks because of it.
I don't know how you can leave one lug nut loose. I mean, I was a big fan of the 5. I mean, geez, they've been doing 5 lug nuts since maybe the
beginning of the sport,
90s, maybe the beginning of the sport has been 5 lug nuts. And that's also when it comes down to not just the best driver, who also has the best team. Like, it's a team effort versus, now one lug nut. The pit stops are a heck of a lot shorter. It's kind of sad to see that, but I can't, we can't change anything about it. But we're still having lots of tire issues due to lower profile tires. And we've had a lot of flat tires in Daytona. Even when Cendric won and did his burnout in victory lane, he flattened both of his rear tires. He got stuck. They had to bring over the tow truck and jack them up and stick 2 new tires on. Like, I have never ever seen that. Maybe there has been flat tires in victory lane before, but I have never ever seen that.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Yesterday, you may have caught it, but when Bubba swerved to miss Jones, his tire was just shredded, and there's a piece of the rubber that was still on the tire, and it was just tearing apart the right front quarter panel. The hood was, it disintegrated because the tire kept whipping into it. The tires, I've gotten past the one lug. That did bother me. That did bother me when they switched that this year with the next gen car. When they announced that, I kind of thought, why the hell fix what isn't broken? But
yeah, that's my point exactly. But yeah, like you said, I have gone past the one lug, but the next problem is the lower profile tires.
Right, I think they went from like a 16-inch rim to an 18-inch rim, and the tires are a lot thinner. Yeah, and that's what's causing all this junk. And every time somebody spins out, their tires are flat. They have to go get the wrecker to shove them back to pit road. It's just very time consuming, and I think that they need to put a little more work into it. They're lucky that they repaved Atlanta, because Atlanta used to be just it was a tire eater. It was insane. And like last year, part of the track, like a chunk of the asphalt came off. It came up just because the surface of it was so old. So these next gen, or the tires for this next gen car, they're thankful that they repaved Atlanta, and we're going to be racing there in a couple weeks. I believe that's on the 20th, because I think it's Phoenix and then Atlanta and then Coda. So yeah, I think they need to get the tires figured out before Circuit of the Americas. That's going to be the first road course we see this new car on. I'm looking forward to it, because last year they ran that whole race in the rain and people were slip sliding all over the place. It was a mess, but I'm excited for that race. I hope they have the tires halfway fixed by then.
Yeah, that's a big problem. I did see they repaved that track, so it's going to be a lot better, but I just think lower profile tires are not what NASCAR needs right now, personally. But
I'll quote my dad on this: Goodyears are junk. That's what my dad said after the 3rd or 4th guy spun around yesterday. These damn Goodyears are junk.
Yeah, I don't know why they need wider rims. I don't know, more flashy. Take the tires, but I do love the new next gen cars. They look absolutely stunning. They are very sick looking, the new rear diffuser and all that. I think that's kind of what's helped when these tires go bad, the car from falling in and eating up the sheet metal on there. I don't know if they're just kind of riding on, because I know when that tire came out, came flopping into the Daytona, that they showed they pan on the tire where it's just riding on the diffuser, which wasn't destroying the sheet metal, so you can slap on a new tire and you're good. But the only thing about that though is you got to get throw in the caution, you got to get the wrecker out there, and it takes its sweet time going out there.
Right, very time consuming.
Very time consuming. You're going to lose your spot, and it's not entirely your fault.
And and you mentioned that you like the next gen cars. The racing has been awesome. It has been some of the best racing. Even yesterday, last year, you and I and my dad went down to Kansas City to the Kansas race, and it was pretty much follow the leader all day. There wasn't a lot of passing going on. And I mean, it was a fun time. The experience was awesome, but the racing wasn't all that great because no one could pass.
No.
And then yesterday we see the next gen car debut on the 1.5 mile track at Vegas, and it was awesome. I mean, they were passing each other. There was no real clear cut best car because it was. I mean, the racing has just been terrific.
Yeah, it really has. And like back then, we're talking about the Fords. The next gen Fords, they look so evil and so mean. And they were doing really good times there. But if I don't know who would have won the Daytona, if I'm not going to say Keselowski caused those wrecks, but with 17 wrecks, you had Larson out, but Larson's never won a Daytona yet. But it's anybody's race. It's kind of every man for himself. Even if you're on teams and stuff, everybody wants to win the Daytona 500. But I don't believe Austin Cindric would have won straight up without any wrecks, any tire problems. I mean, I think Larson probably could have finished top 6 in the Daytona, though. I don't know. I don't have any other assumptions for any other position, but I just say, Austin Cindric may have kind of got lucky being out of the way of the wrecks.
And Daytona 500, those restrictor courses, it's like you said, it's pretty much every man for themselves. And we saw Cindric throw the block on his teammate Blaney to win. He sent Blaney into the wall to win the Daytona 500. Blaney was pissed. I don't blame him. I'd have been pissed too.
Yeah.
But if I'm Roger Penske and one of those two guys don't win, I'm going to be pissed. So one of them better win the race. But anyway.
But then after that, I see an article come up saying that the forged tires have been confiscated. Now I've looked into it a little bit, but I just kept finding dead ends on like what they truly did, but they were something about before the race inspection, they were catching the Ford's mechanics doing something with the tires. Like, I don't know what they were doing, but it must not have been totally illegal there. Cause I heard back in the Dale Jr. podcast, they're talking about he was worried about the next gen cars being easy to modify for cheating purposes. But also NASCAR has changed the rules on whoever gets caught cheating, it's going to be a very hefty financial penalty on that team and owner. So maybe I don't know what kind of the penalties are going to cost, but and then they came out with the statement the next following day that Ford really didn't do anything wrong, but there has confirmed that they did something to the tires. It really didn't state what they did, but the Fords were looking really well in practice, and the Daytona, they were keeping up pretty good without, the wrecks though. Logano and all of them were keeping up there pretty good, but nothing must not have been too bad. But, now I don't know if they fixed that problem, but, the Fords, the last couple weekends, there hasn't been a ton of Fords. But, last week, Logano was keeping up with Larson pretty well, but, Logano just kind of fell back in the pack. Suarez and Larson kind of going at it. And was it Chase Elliott that Larson supposedly his spotter didn't see and just cut him off? And, their teammates. And,
NASCAR or the media kind of blew that up. I had a feeling that Elliott or that Rick Hendrick wasn't going to let Chase Elliott dump Kyle Larson. I mean, it's just stupid. It wrecks cars. It's expensive. Mr. H wasn't going to let it happen. The media blew it up, but we knew Elliott wasn't going to do anything.
Because I'm not, Larson fan. I'm not backing him up. There's been two sides of each story,
Right.
saying that, Elliott fans were saying that Larson did intentionally just to be greedy with the victory, but the only thing I heard and believed was that Kyle Spotter did a very horrible job that day and just didn't tell him that Elliott was on his right side when he cut up into the corner. So I don't know what to believe. You don't know what goes on inside someone's head at the race, but I'm very, being a Larson, everybody's got their driver, but this episode's, very open-minded about every driver kind of predictions and stuff. So, but I don't know what truly happened. He kind of did cut him up there and set him into the wall.
I heard they played it on Radioactive where they play like the best sound clips from the radios. Larson's spotter was very, very late telling Larson to go up because Elliott was on his right rear quarter panel. And then all of a sudden, Larson's spotter just goes outside, 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 outside. And then you see Larson swerve up into Elliott. Well, it's because his spotter did a pretty crappy job telling him.
Yeah, it was too late. And now everybody's making assumptions. You got like the Elliott fans. I mean, they're on the same exact team, though. But, also people saying that, Larson is greedy for a victory. But, be in the top five, though, with, you get your points, points for playoffs. So I don't think finishing second and third or fourth is too terrible. But, I don't think Larson is being greedy with the victory. But, yeah, that's what I heard was his spotter was very, very late at that exact moment. It's too late. Going 190 something miles an hour. Stuff happens in a flick, in the flick of a second. So, yeah, it possibly was a spotter's fault. Because, they're, since, Dale Sr. passed away in 2001 in the fourth corner. And head restraints. I believe the head restraints, because, if you look at the drivers on the inside, the head restraints are kind of in the way-ish. I don't know if, that's what made Dale Sr. so great, because his head was free floating in there. That's what
they don't have that anymore. Yeah, the restraints, the Hans device, that pretty much locks their heads into place, which is good. It saves lives.
Good for their safety, but like when back to the Elliott, like him cutting up, that's what your spotter's for. So I believe it was the spotter's fault and not Larson, because Elliott's on his right quarter panel. I don't know if he got mirrors or if he's checking, but you really can't move your head inside them cars, because after Senior's death, they enforced the neck restraints and
haven't had a death since.
I haven't had a death since. A lot of scary, oh man, what's his name? Ryan Newman, his big accident.
I thought he was dead.
Yeah, he was in a coma for 2 days, I believe, when he got sent to the hospital. He was his brain swelled, really, really bad.
Probably the scariest wreck I've ever seen. I thought Ryan Newman had just died on TV. I was scared.
Yeah, it's, we did get to see him in Kansas City, but unfortunately, he's retired. Yeah, he retired last at the end of last season. So yeah, but yeah, that was scary. But due to the new head restraints and everything, everybody's pretty well protected. Because back 90s, head restraints were optional, and I believe Senior was one of 3 or 4 that refused wear restraints. Everybody had the head restraints. No. Since his death, it became mandatory. So yeah, that's kind of, I'm going around to where Larson kind of cut off Elliott there. That's what I'm talking about. I don't know if vision's kind of a problem. Why would they have spotters and everything? I believe it intentionally wasn't Larson. It was a spotter coming in very late. So that's what I believe. And everybody has an opinion. It could be fact. I mean, you did hear that his spotter was kind of late into his mic. So
oh yeah, he was. And I just realized we're already at 27 minutes. So I think it's time to hand out the honorary first cold beer award for the best move or the best person on the track on the Sunday race, the Cup race. It's basically the MVP award. I decided to call it the cold beer award because I'm creative like that. And my cold beer this weekend is going to Greg Ives, crew chief of the 48 team, electing to take 2 tires instead of 4, putting his driver in a position to win the race there at Las Vegas. So Greg Ives, you get the cold beer of the week. Good job to the crew chief of the 48. Awesome job. And it could, the thing of this one is I could have had a whole 6-pack of cold beers to give out this week. I could have given one to Ross Chastain. I could have given one to Kyle Busch. I could have given one to Kyle Larson, William Byron. I mean, I could have brought a whole 6-pack, but instead I just elected to go with one. And Greg Ives, crew chief for Alex Bowman, he gets the cold beer this week. So kudos to them. Congratulations to Alex Bowman.
Yeah, and we're gonna have a new contest coming up. It's either the cold feet or the pacifier award, and that unfortunately goes to Kyle Busch.
Yeah, like the pacifier award. I didn't have time to run to Walmart and get a pacifier, but the premise of this award is the biggest baby on the track. All right, and I've got to close out of my stopwatch here and get the quote pulled up, and I'm going to leave out some naughty words. I'll let the viewers and Will fill in the blanks here. But yeah, the pacifier award goes to the biggest baby on the track for the cup race. And Kyle Busch gets this week's award because he could have taken 2 tires. This is what he said about Alex Bowman over the radio as Bowman won the race. This is what Kyle Busch said. The same blanking guy who backs into every blanking win that he ever blanking gets backs into another blanking win. This is total bull blank. So you guys fill in the blanks, but
pretty obvious though.
He could have taken 2 tires.
And he could have been, you never know where he could have been. He could have finished.
Oh, I didn't take 2 tires. I'm so sad. Alex Bowman stealing wins. Oh, woe is me.
You don't have to take all 4 tires.
I'm Kyle Busch. He needs a pacifier. Being a baby.
Yeah, you don't have to take 4 tires there, guy. You can choose not to go with tires. But, the way with low profiles we're looking this year, I mean, you might want to get as much tires as needed. But, taking 2, that's – you know what you're doing when you're taking 2 tires. So, you got to take all 4. But, it should have been faster with 1 lug. But, 2 tires with 1 lug is going to be a heck of a lot quicker than 4 tires.
Restarted first, probably would have won the race.
Yeah.
But Alex Bowman, he steals every win that he ever gets. He shouldn't even have 1 single win. Kyle, you could have taken 2 tires. I mean, it's simple as that. He didn't back into that win. He just made a better call than your crew chief.
Exactly.
Simple
4
as
tires,
that.
4 points.
All right. Now we're going to move on to the predictions for Phoenix part of this one. It's the debut of the next gen car at the short tracks. Phoenix is, I believe it's a mile and a quarter track, 1.25, I believe. So it's one of the shorter tracks that NASCAR runs. And the next gen car, I mean, the racing has been awesome. I mentioned that earlier, but on the short tracks, I'm not really sure what to expect.
Yeah, because Larson's good at the 1.5 miles. So I would like to, being my guy, my racer. I'm not going to say first place every time, but I believe Larson could be in the top 6 maybe, because Kyle Larson has been dominant the last couple of seasons. But like I said, anything can go. Rex, the way the tires are looking this year, he could have a flat tire. You never know. But I'd like to say that Truex or, it's not the stricter plate races. Where the Fords are. I'm going to say Logano. Is it a stricter plate? No. No. So I'm not going to go with Logano this time. But I'd like to see, maybe Suarez or Truex or, you never know, Hamlin. You never know. It could be anybody. But I like to. Larson, I'm going to say maybe 4th and up.
Yeah, Larson won there the last time we were there last year when he secured the championship. But the spring race, Truex Jr. won last year's spring race, and he finished 2nd at the fall race. If he would have beat Larson, he would have stole the championship from him. Fortunately, Larson, the guy who deserved the championship last year, won it. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Martin Truex up there running up front. You mentioned Denny Hamlin. He's had a pretty rough start to his season.
Yeah, unfortunately.
He's a hack. He's a hack. Denny Hamlin's a hack. That's what he called Alex Bowman last year at Martinsville. Denny Hamlin's the hack.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I just don't know. I like to say I do like Martin Truex. You know, you gotta love that Bass Pro Shops car, and you know, I'm being a kind of Toyota fan myself. You know, I'd like to see Truex do pretty well there. So
Then there's one more driver I would have my eye on at Phoenix, and it's Kevin Harvick. He is dominant at Phoenix when he gets the right car. He's, like I said earlier, he's probably still trying to figure out the ins and outs of the next gen car, but if he gets his car right, you can kiss him goodbye. He's gonna dominate at Phoenix. I think he's won there 4 or 5 times in his career, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him win again.
Yeah, you know, you gotta have that right car. You know, sometimes stuff, you know, like Biffle's fuel pump going out, Daytona.
Poor Biffle,
You know, I don't want to laugh at him, poor Biffle, but you know, anything could happen. You could have a lemon car, you could have the best car. You know, just yeah, it could be anybody. But I'd like to say, you know, if you got a good solid team that day and your tires actually hold up and you got the good car, you know, you could be deadly. So we'll just have to see and what happens. So.
All right. Any final thoughts from you, Will, on the Vegas recap, the Phoenix predictions? What can we expect?
Oh man, you know, I was hoping Bubba would make it up there pretty well, but you know, Larson, I do believe Larson kind of let off there on the end to kind of secure a spot for Bowman. So I'd like to see those racers. You know, I'd like to see Truex get up there in in Phoenix. But man, I wouldn't mind Suarez getting up there, but you never know.
I'm one of Daniel's amigos. I'm Daniel's biggest amigo.
So I don't know if I want to shoot too low, but let's hope he finishes maybe 15th and up. Maybe, you know, he was pretty good at last weekend's race. You know, him and Larson were, you know, battling one of the greats. You know, he's one of the young talented rookies. You know, Larson is, but you know, he kind of took on Larson there for a while. But you know, Larson happened to cut off right where the checker was at and passed a bunch of guys on the way in. So I'm kind of open-minded right now. We'll just have to see what happens. You know, I'm kind of skeptical going with a good racer on the low-profile tires this year. So anything could happen. You know, Keselowski trying to dump somebody. You never know. You know, your driver could get caught up in the wrecks. You know, Larson wrecked at the Daytona. You know, I wasn't expecting him to win the Daytona, but at least finish top 10 at least. So, but
right.
Could be anybody's race. Stuff could happen. Wrecks. So let's hope for it. You know, some good wrecks next to everybody, you know, but listen, maybe somebody from the back of the pack could come in and win it and surprise us all. You never know. So what's your thought?
I think Phoenix, the short track, this is going to be the first short track we run this year. Everybody likes short track racing. You know, it's probably the most exciting form. I think it's more exciting than restrictor plate racing. Bristol, Martinsville always tend to be some of the best races of the year. Phoenix, you don't hear as much about. You'll hear it at the end of the year when they're racing for the championship. But yeah, I'm excited. Next gen car on the short track for the first time. I'm looking forward to it and take it to the bank. This is what I'm going to say. Martin Truex Jr. comes out on top in Phoenix.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Especially, you know, he's been running really well this year, kind of, you know, and that everything seems to be holding up for him. All right. So we'll just have to see what goes.
Yep. And that should do it for this episode.
Alrighty.
We'll be recording again next Monday, probably trying to recap Phoenix and going into Atlanta predictions. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Adios.